Welcome on in, guys. Three bold takes again, and we're continuing our conference win total projection videos. Again, there is a graphic on the screen. We're not going to harp on it too much, but today we're doing the SEC, and apparently this is a conference of the 9-win club. 7 teams of area in the conference are projected to win 9 or more games. That seems a little egregious to me, to be quite honest with you. You've got teams like Alabama, okay, Georgia, okay, Texas, okay, we'll give you that one. But then you've got LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. I'll give you Ole Miss too. So that's 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 teams that are like kind of locks, I guess, for, I would say, okay, for the 10-win mark, but I think 7's a little bit too much. Let's just open it up, right? Okay, one of the ones to me that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb is Florida being at 4.5, and this graphic apparently saying it's too low. Now, we all know Florida's schedule. They have the toughest schedule in the country, especially the back half of it, last 5-6 games. They're not making a bowl game this year. And so to me, if you're at 4.5 and they have them as too low, then you're pretty much saying that they're a bowl fringe team, and I don't think that's the case. I think they are a 4-win team, so I think it's actually about right. Quinn, I know you have some strong opinions on Florida, at least you did last year, and I know you probably still do.
Well, I don't actually, and that's the thing. Like, I don't. Last year, I was convinced Florida was going to do worse. When everyone was like, "Oh, they're gonna punch through to a bowl," I was like, "Nah, I think they're going to be worse this year than they were last." I think they're actually going to be a much better team this year, and I think they're going to be a team that's like a 5-7 football team who doesn't make a bowl game. But if you line them up and they played like a 7-win team from the Big 12 or the ACC, they'd beat them by 3 touchdowns. Like, I think they're just going to have a terrible record because of how tough their schedule is. Like, I don't think they're better than a lot of the teams are playing. And so I think they'll lose those games by a possession. And then they're going to lose games they might otherwise have won because of how beat down they are from all of the great teams that they're playing. The two that stick out to me, you mentioned the conference of 9 wins. All these 9.5s, one of them's too high. And for me, that's LSU. I think LSU's missing a lot of pieces. And I think everybody just thinks it's going to work. That defense has not been it since Brian Kelly showed up. And a lot of what made them run these last 2 years was all on the shoulders of the quarterback play. Every single bit of it. Jaden Daniels carried that team for 2 years. I mean, Malik Neighbors played a significant role, but it was the passing attack and the quarterback scramble that was LSU for 2 years. And now you're having to replace that. And I'm not convinced that they're just going to easily do it to the point that I would feel comfortable betting on a 9 spread. Because when you tell me your spread's 9.5, you're saying they're either going to be a 9-win or 10-win team. That's what you're telling me. And I don't see them finishing that high. I think they're more of a 7 or 8-win team this year, if we're being completely honest. And the other one I see that irks me is Oklahoma at 7.5. I think that's too low. I would put Oklahoma as 8.5. Because I think saying that they could be 8 or 9 wins makes a lot more sense than saying that they're 7 or 8 wins. This team beat Texas last year. I know they're missing Dylan Gabriel, but they kind of ran him out on their own. So I think those are the two that when I see this list that I think are off.
Well, both of those points, what you're saying with this graphic, right, is that there are 7 teams that are going to play for the SEC championship. That's just false. That is just completely false. I would pinpoint LSU, I see a 7.5 would be their best mark. And also, I put Missouri down there too. I don't like Missouri at that high. I don't think that they're gonna. Y'all are on the drink. I'm not on the drink. Y'all can get drunk.
It's not just that I'm on the drink. Their schedule's not hard.
It's not super hard, but to say Missouri is going to be, there aren't divisions anymore, so it's kind of, but to say Missouri is going to be a 10-win team, I'm not saying, neither is Tennessee, I don't think. And to your point of Oklahoma, I agree with that one as well. I think it's a little low, And I truly wish the SEC would have sat down and said, Texas, you're going to have Oklahoma's schedule, and Oklahoma, you're going to have Texas's. Because we would see two totally different teams from that. Texas at 10.5, people are going to look at that and say, that's insane. Texas's schedule in the SEC is so easy this year. It is a cakewalk for an SEC first-year schedule. Oklahoma, on the other hand, is getting just stomped on with the schedule that they have. And I'm not saying each game they will. I'm just saying, like, it is not a favorable for them at all.
Yeah, well, I think Texas, because they played Alabama the past 2 years and a home gets the benefit of the doubt, right? And doesn't have to play Bama. Oklahoma does, right? But Texas does draw Georgia, right? So
it's not that, though. It's more the other stuff down schedule. Like Oklahoma, when you look at all these, we mentioned there's 7 teams that are 9.5 or better. Oklahoma plays all of them except for Georgia. And Texas plays none of them except for Georgia. Yep. So that's really where it gets brutal for Oklahoma's schedule. It's just how many of these like 9.5 plus teams they're drawing. That's 6 of their 8. And then their other 2 is Auburn, who's projected at 7.5. And I want to say it's South Carolina. So they have 1 team projected below 500.
And man, if Texas' schedule wasn't lined up like it would, I'd put them at 9.5 because I really think the only 2 deserving team. I'm about to eat this, but the only 2 deserving teams, that should be 10.5. I think Ole Miss should be there.
You know what?
I think
what? Ole Miss really only plays 2 hard games.
Right?
They do.
They play LSU and they play Georgia.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I guess Oklahoma, if you want to count that.
And they had, I think, the number 1 transfer portal this offseason. They had a top recruiting like they are built like this is their season to go all in, and they return.
Yeah, but they still don't think they should be 10.5 though. I like the 9.5 number a lot.
I think it's easy to bet. I think Ole Miss wins 10 games. I think it's harder to say Ole Miss goes 11-1. That's where it gets tough for me.
I'll give you that.
I'll say this. I think there's too many. I think the issue is there's too many at 9.5. So like the way I'd like to see this leveled out is Texas and Georgia as the 10.5s. I think Alabama, Missouri, and Ole Miss should be the 9.5s. I think Tennessee, LSU, A&M, and Auburn and Oklahoma, between those 5, they should be split somewhere down the middle between 7.5s and 8. What I'd like to see is Auburn, Kentucky, and A&M at 7.5, LSU, Oklahoma, and Tennessee at 8.5.
I could get behind that. I think it's funny though that Texas A&M is at 8.5 because they have the stigma of going 8-4 every year. It's just very typical to see them at 8.5, and I kind of really do like that number for this year in particular. I think they're in a much better position in the future than they were with Jimbo Fisher. So going forward, I would anticipate that number to change a little bit, but for right now, I think it's a great number.
I'd bet the under still.
And
I would too.
and before we get off, I think Auburn might be too low.
Okay, hold on. I can get behind this because they play like 5 straight home games to start the year.
I think Auburn and Hugh Freeze, and we're all Alabama fans here. I know but you got to give some love. I think as an unbiased, just looking at football, I think Auburn has a chance to win 8-9 games this year. Truly, definitely stay focused. I think last year at the end of the year, when you talk about the New Mexico game that they lost, they were focused on recruiting. They didn't really care about much. They got a team to compete this year, and they're going to be a tough one.
Here's the one thing I'll say about that. Everyone likes to bring up Hugh Freeze's success at Ole Miss. The SEC has fundamentally changed since he was last prominent in the conference. So the last time where he made his Ole Miss run, there wasn't a lot of high-powered offense teams. There was Ole Miss, there was Auburn. And if you remember correctly, they actually had a pretty not great record against Gus Malzahn and Auburn. They would lose that game more often than not. The conference as a whole has changed to offense first. Texas is offense first, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU. I mean, it. Other than Georgia,
I like the 7.5 number. I wouldn't dare move it up because I think when you're sitting at 7.5, I could very easily see them going, 7-5, 8-4. They're not winning 9 games though, so I think that's a very good number. I think okay, all right. So we talked about the 9 win in the upper echelon, right? Vandy at 2.5. Talk to me.
Perfect.
Yeah. I need to say it, but yeah, they have a chance to win 4 that I saw, but yeah, to be safe.
Now, if you want to talk about the team that really is in the out of the lower half of the conference, the team that I think they've got the number wrong on, Mississippi State at 4.5. I would put it at 3.5.
Yeah, I was hoping you would go that way.
Good.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of shade on Beamer and Pittman at South Carolina and Arkansas because people have hope that they would have turned themselves around by now. But Mississippi State is just in a different place, right?
Yeah, they've got to instill their culture. They've got to instill their full offense that Lebby wants to run. They got a couple years before they're going to be like hey, this could be a team that we don't like to play. Because I can't remember, did they get a quarterback from somewhere? Because I know they lost Rodgers to Washington. But did they get somebody else? Did he bring somebody in? I don't know, but
I don't think it was anybody very prominent.
Yeah. Regardless, Nate is. Yeah, maybe. Go ahead.
I feel for them because, let's be real. There's really, when you look at the landscape of the SEC, everyone pretty much compete in a money aspect aside from 3 schools, and that's Vandy, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. So, if Mississippi State has not got a rock-solid coach that I'm confident in, then I think their win total should be down in the dumps. Same thing with Kentucky, same thing with Vandy. It's just right now with Kentucky, Stoops has proven to me that they're going to be a bowl team every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Come hell or high water, he's going to drag that team to thick win.
That's true.
I agree. Well, guys, that has been the 2024 SEC win totals. Hope you guys enjoyed these type of videos. We will be doing more of these in the future. That wraps up all of the conferences, by the way. If you've seen them all, awesome. If you have not, go back and watch them. We did every Power 4 conference. Stay tuned for more conference schedules. We will see you guys next time. I've been Freddie. I'm joined by Chase and Quinn. 3 Bold Takes. We are out.